Welcome to today's podcast. My name is Pearlie Brewer, and I will be your host. Today's podcast guest is Roy Silliker. Roy is the General Manager and CEO of the New Brunswick Construction Safety Association. Welcome, Roy.
Thanks, Pearlie.
I guess you could say, when it comes to you, Roy, that, we're all familiar with the Fathers of Confederation. Well, I think you could almost say that you're certainly the father of the New Brunswick Construction Safety Association. You've been around since the beginning. How many years is that now, Roy?
This December will be 22 years. Hard to believe, but 22 years this December.
Very good. So before you joined NBCSA, where did you work? What kind of things did you do as far as your background in construction?
My background, basically, I'm a welder by trade. I started off in the welding industry and then very quickly realized I didn't want to do that. So I moved into the management side of construction and get into management of construction and worked for one of the larger employers in the province for the industrial sector for 15 years. And then I moved from there to NBCSA 22 years ago. And looking back, it was probably one of the best career moves I ever made, and really have enjoyed it for the last 22 years.
Now, for folks that may not be familiar with NBCSA, how and when and why did it get started?
It was a long process, Pearlie. It was a very long process. It started back, it was actually formed in 2001, but 6 years before that, I would say at least 6 years before that, there was a founding committee of the association to try and get it off the ground and get it going. It took 6 years to make that happen. After the 6 years was up, we finally got agreement from the industry. The industry was the people that were pushing it to get the association going. And the association was basically designed that we would get a levy from the contractors involved in our NACIS codes and so on. And we got an agreement with WorkSafe to collect that money for us. And we got started back in 2001. So it's been going that way since. Some of my board of directors from the founding committee are still on my board of directors today. So yeah, it's been a good wheel.
So what is the actual mandate of NBCSA?
Well, basically we have a formal mandate, but our mandate is to make sure that we have training available and services available to the construction sector at a very reasonable cost to better improve the health of workers and workforces and work areas. So we do that through training and auditing and safety programs and member services and all that.
So members, non-members, I see on your website. Explain the difference for anyone that might be listening.
Well, we have a member system where anyone that pays workers' compensation under the construction NACIS codes, which is a list of NACIS codes from WorkSafe New Brunswick for construction sector, they're automatically members of our association. So there's a levy attached to their premium. It's about a 1% levy that goes on top of the premium to help fund the association. We get $450,000 a year from the levy to help fund the association, which is probably about 1/3 of our operating capital. Then we have an associate membership status where we have associate members that want to do dealings with us for a reduced price. So they pay an annual fee to us to be an associate member. And then we're able to give them the discounted prices for training and services. Then there's non-members too.
Who would fit in as an associate member?
We have a very large sector of associate. It comes from everyone that's like a lot of the welding facilities, the welding shops that don't fall under construction, but they're welding. A lot of the private sector businesses that deal with construction companies, but don't fall under construction. And then we have people like DTI who had to become core certified for their safety program. They joined as an associate to get into that system. It's quite a cross section of members. We have everything from oil companies to fab shops coming as an associate member.
So are they mainly from construction related industries?
I'd say 80%. I'd say 80% of them are. Now we do have a few other ones like that aren't. Like for example, I'll use school district Anglophone North. as an associate member. So they train all of their maintenance people, their janitors, their maintenance people through us. And they do so much training with us in the north and in Miramichi North that it was worthwhile for them to become an associate because it was cheaper for them to do that than it was to do it as a non-member, right?
Now, probably what you're best known for around the province, of course, are your training courses. Talk to us about your training courses, and then in a moment we'll get to virtual training, e-learning, and so on. But as far as your training courses that you promote on a regular basis, tell folks about those.
Well, we have quite a vast list of construction-related courses, and we call them construction-related courses, but they're really workplace courses, so they refer to any industry. Any industry can cover them, and we have a vast straight from basic safety orientation and WMIS, right up to fall protection, confined space, lockout, tagout, man lift, the whole 9 yards. Most of our courses are they go between half a day to 2 days, depending on the course. We also do the regulated courses for joint health and safety committees, the blended courses for joint health and safety committees. A lot of the other training we do, we contract it out, or else we refer it out. So, St. John Ambulance is one of our providers that we have an agreement with. So we direct our people to go to them. So, forklift, we direct them to go to Safety Services New Brunswick. That type of scenario, because it's not something we offer. So we get them to go to, we know who the right providers for those training courses are.
Now, before we went on the air today, we talked about virtual training, of course, with COVID, e-learning as well. What are you offering as far as virtual training, as an example?
Virtual training we're offering right now, we're really only offering our construction safety admin course, which is one of the courses that we offer for anyone that wants to go for one of our designations. It's a half day course. We offer that virtually. We do the JHSC blended course virtually, and we do a hazard ID course virtually. That's about the only ones we really seen that took any takeoff. The industry just didn't seem to grasp virtual as much as we thought they might, but people like to be in the classroom. People like to be, and I don't disagree with them, because in the classroom training, you get that feedback from one student to another. They talk more than they do virtually. Like if you're on virtual, you don't usually talk to the other clients, right? So in the classroom, this happened to me in my site. This happened to me in my site. This is how we fixed it. I think they like that better.
Yeah, certainly a lot more interaction when you get in classroom versus trying to do something virtual.
Yes.
E-learning.
E-learning courses, we put quite a few of our courses up e-learning whenever COVID hit, and it's probably was a good thing. It forced us into doing it. We spent a lot of time and effort and money into putting them up. We see a big intake in our e-learning courses because people like to not have to travel, so they like the fact that they can do it. Start it today and finish it next week. Because the way our system is designed, we create our own courses and we have our own software to run the thing through our servers and everything. So they're able to go in and do say a fall protection course, or fall protection refresher, because we only offer the refresher online. So that refresher is 6 modules, I believe. So they can go do module 1, module 2, and then come back a couple of days, do module 3, module 4, and come back and do module 4 or 5. So it gives them more flexibility.
What would be your most popular courses when it comes to e-learning?
Probably the refresher for fall protection and the refresher for confined space, I would say, would be the 2 top courses. We do quite a bit with safety orientation and women's. That's our 2 main ones. Actually, our safety orientation course now, which is a half-day course, and that's basically a regulation course, it very rarely runs classroom. It's mostly done web-based.
Now, my next question to you, and it's an ongoing issue in many industries, not just construction, courses being transferable from province to province.
To province. It's a big problem, and I wish we could fix it somehow, but I don't know if we'll ever will. But one good thing that we do have is through our Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Associations across Canada, which we're quite involved with that organization. So on a regular basis, We have agreements between each other that we would accept the training courses from one province to the other, from one association to the other, as long as it's a training course that we offer in this province, for example, right? So, our fall protection confined space, those usually, now, if it comes to a regulated problem, like, for example, a fall protection, Newfoundland, Ontario have regulated criteria in place for fall protection. So they can't switch back and forth. I can accept theirs. No problem, because theirs goes well above what our curriculum is, but they can't accept ours because it's regulated through the provider, right? So you have to be approved. But we have pretty good luck with back and forth through the provinces with those. If you're dealing from association to association, in the Alberta side, we can go back and forth with Alberta Construction, but not with the oil sands side. They don't accept our training or anything else, so that the people have to take their own training from them.
Now, with not just the construction, but in a lot of sectors, including nursing and so on, shortage of workers is causing an issue. Yeah. What are you hearing from your members when it comes to shortage of workers?
Well, I think every industry is having the problem. It's funny I say that because this year, one of the biggest problems I've seen in our sector this year is safety professionals. They're having a hard time finding safety professionals to go to work at their sites. So we sometimes don't think of safety as a profession, and it is. It's a very strong profession today. And if you did a search on Indeed today, you would find about probably, I'm going to say roughly 7 or 8 construction companies that are looking for safety professionals right now. And it's a difficult thing. Tradesmen, the industrial sector is not too bad. They seem to be keeping up with the industrial sector. It's the commercial sector that's having the hardest time. I think it may be the residential sector is having a hard time. I know the road builders have a hard time finding their people in the summertime. Because people are still moving around. People are still going to the west, people coming back. So it totally depends on the season. It totally depends on the demand at the time. But yes, I think all sectors are still having a struggle with manpower.
Now, when you talk about programs that you offer and a shortage, for example, of construction safety coordinators, we'll get to that in just a second. But if you go on your website, of course, you talk about the different programs you do offer. The first one is probably the one that's most familiar with folks, and that's CORE. Do you want to explain to our listeners what CORE is?
Okay, Certificate of Recognition is a national program that's recognized through the Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Associations. So we have a national agreement on content for the audit tool. Basically what it is, it's a system where we train, we give courses on how to set up your safety program. We actually give sample safety manuals with the training. They're able to then taught how to audit their own program to make sure where they can find the downfalls in their program by the questions that we ask in our audit tool. They can correct them. Then they submit to us an internal audit of the company. We in turn review the internal audit and set them up for an external audit. We then actually go with an external auditor to verify that everything they say they're doing. And I'll be honest with you, Pearlie, from what my history in the past is, contractors are always hard on themselves, so their internal audit may not be as strong as their external audit because they sometimes are harder on themselves than we are. So, and which is a good thing because they feel their system is missing this or missing that, and when really it's not. It just needs to be maneuvered around a little bit different. It's been a very popular program. I guess one of the main driving forces behind the CORE program was tendering. It started out that we're getting a lot of companies that came to us because they had to come, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be able to bid projects for the province. But now we have private sector companies that are asking for CORE. We have government companies, the sector asking for CORE. So we're finding more and more that companies are now coming because they want to have a safety program that lowers their premiums and helps them with their workers' compensation and makes their employees a better place to work. So it's kind of gone a 360 that way. I don't see it as much now as I need it for a tender as I need it to make sure my employees are working safe and happy.
Any idea how many CORE certified companies you'd have here in the province? In
New Brunswick, we fluctuate between 375 to 420, depending on the year. And that's a tip of the iceberg, Pearlie. That's a tip of the iceberg. I mean, compared to what our membership is.
Okay. Now, you mentioned we talked a moment ago about a shortage of construction safety coordinators. You have 3 other programs beside CORE. One of them is the Construction Safety Coordinator Program.
Yep.
Explain what all is involved in that program.
So what we started off with was the Construction Safety Coordinator Program years ago. That's how we started it, and it was basically we have a program for the CSC. They have to take a required amount of training, management training, and elective trade training. Then once they have the training done, they have to follow through with. They have to have 3 years of construction experience or safety experience in the industry. They have to have proof of an internal audit, that they've done an internal audit in the core program. They have to show proof that they've done toolbox talks, presentations. They have to show proof that they've done evaluations of assessments of job sites. Then once they have all of that done, they can challenge our exam. Once they pass our exam, then we issue them the CSC certificate. The CSC certificate is a provincial certificate. So we created it first. Then, and I know you're going to ask, so I'll move right into it. We created the NCSO, which is a national program. So the national program pretty well mirrors the CSC designation. The only big difference is we now have a national exam. So it's an exam that was created by the national CFCSA body. And that CFCSA body then manages through the provincial associations the program. So if you get your NCSO from New Brunswick, for example, and you're certified, and it's a 3-year renewal. So every 3 years you have to renew it, because one of the things we found was, and Alberta was who brought it to light, they have all kinds of NCSOs, but some of them aren't even working in the industry anymore, but they still have an NCSO. So with the new NCSO program that we have now, you would know if they're an NCSO that they're valid. They've been done it in 3 years and they've refreshed it after 3 years. So we did that for that reason. So if I have it from New Brunswick and I want to go to work in Manitoba, I get a hold of Manitoba and say, this is my certificate from New Brunswick. They flip it over to a Manitoba certificate and give you the opportunity, or you have to write the provincial exam. So each province has the national exam and the provincial exam. And the provincial exam basically is regulations. It's a regulation exam. And we do that because we want to make sure that they know the regulations of the province they're going to work in, right? So then our HSA, which is our Health and Safety Administrator, and it's still on our website right now as HSA, but it's going to be changing in the next couple weeks, hopefully, to NHSA. So we now have a national agreement for the National Health and Safety Administrator. And it's basically an apprentice to the either a CSC or an NCSO. So they basically have the education components, but they don't have the experience theory. They haven't done audits and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like an apprenticeship program to get them into the safety profession and move them along to the NCSO or the CSC.
Now, what kind of uptake have you had on those programs?
Pretty decent. We probably issue, I'm going to say we probably issue with 20, 25 a year of NCSOs. Not too many take the CSC anymore because, I mean, the CSC, but we want to keep it there because it was our provincial designation. The big thing about the provincial designation is it can't be transferred across Canada. So the NCSO can be transferred across Canada, right? So that was the big, and we have the odd person who will take the CSC because they say, well, I live in New Brunswick. I'm staying in New Brunswick. I don't need to have the NCSO. I'm going to take the CSC. So, because it doesn't expire, right? That's the biggest difference. It doesn't expire.
One of the other items I saw on your website the other day was safety net. What is safety net?
Safety net's a big tool of ours. So basically, back about, I'm going to say, 20 years ago, when we started the association, one of the things that I seen that I really had to do was create a system or software that would run the association. So we created a system we call Calvin, and it's been growing ever since. So Calvin is it runs the association. It does everything from registration to processing to keeping our data together and everything. Well, our safety net is linked to Calvin. So companies that are members of NBCSA can get access to the system. or associate members can get access through Safety Net, and they can keep track of all their training that's done by their company. They can keep track of all the records that they have, all the training they've done for their company. And if they're going to hire a new employee, they can actually go in and type in the name for the employee. And that's why we ask for the date of birth, because there's a lot of people with the same name in this province. So we have to go by date of birth, and they can see what training they had before they even approach them for an interview, so they can check their references basically by checking their training records. It's used a lot by the industry, to keep track of training records and everything else. So yeah, it's very popular.
So Calvin is still a growing concern.
Calvin is still a growing concern. Calvin, right now, every province in Canada uses our software except Quebec and Alberta, as the only two provinces in Canada that don't use the Calvin system to run their associations training and auditing side.
Well done. Member services. On your website, you promote a number of member services. I'm sure you do a lot more than this, but there's three you specifically identify. Number one is the facilitation of program development.
Yeah, so that's basically our core program. It's the development of programs to help them get their program going. And even after they get their program going, we'll still go under member services to assist them. So say someone's having a hard time figuring out how to do a comprehensive hazard assessment on their company. We can go and spend time with them to help them create a comprehensive hazard assessment for their company. That's one of the most popular ones. We call it member service. We have a fee for it. I don't mind saying I don't usually charge the fee very often. We usually just go and do it. We do a lot of member service stuff that maybe should be charged for, but we promote it as a service to the industry.
On-site information sessions.
Yeah, we do a lot of those. We have a lot of companies that want us to go do on-site for them. We do a lot of private training for companies, so we'll go out and do a private course for them at their location. The only requirement we have is minimum of 12 there. So as long as they have 12 people, with our rates that we charge for our training, we need at least 12 people to cover the cost of the course. And we do a fair number of them. I would say that our calendar in any given year, if you looked at our calendar and seen the scheduled courses, double that, because that's how many private courses would be on there.
Very good. Now, I noticed in addition to all the good work you do in the training field and programming and so on, you also support very much Steps for Life and Threads for Life.
Oh, big time, yeah.
What kind of things do you do there?
Well, we actually started the Steps for Life. Steps for Life is just the fundraiser for the Threads for Life, and Threads for Life is some of you may know and some may not. Threads for Life is an organization that's there to assist families that have lost loved ones at the workplace and support. And we find it's a very, very good association to tie ourselves to. So we've really stepped up. We started the walks here in Miramichi back several years ago, and they went for three years, I believe. And then we found that we wanted to get a bigger venue. So Miramichi's not a big city, so we moved it into St. John, and St. John is taken over. Then you guys, I know with Safety Services, you were key in getting the one going in Fredericton for a few years. Hopefully after COVID gets over, it's done. It's done.
Safety awards. You have a safety awards program. Always love to see those. Tell us about yours.
Ours, we have several different safety awards. We actually 4 different safety awards that we give out every year. We have the Safety Professional of the Year, so that's someone with a designation in our association. Leadership Awards is for companies that have shown leadership, and Best Practices is for a company that comes up with a unique idea on how to do stuff. And then Safety Stars for an individual. So we have a lot of very talented people out there that put them forth. So
you still have your Professional Development Day?
Yes, every year. We only missed 1 year, actually. We missed 1 year of the professional. Last year we brought it back in Moncton, and this year it's going to be in Fredericton in November. So it's a very popular. It grows to about 90 some people come to that now.
NBCSA e-news. Noticed that the other day when I was looking up some information. Nice little publication. How often is that put out, Roy?
It's put out monthly, and we have as of right now, just if anyone's interested in getting our e-news electronically every month, drop an email to me at roy@nbcsa.ca. I'll put you on my master list, but we are going to be putting a link on our website very soon to anyone that wants to apply. Just click it here and they'll get it every month.
Now, all the good work you're doing on a continual basis over the years, I'm sure folks continue to ask, okay, that's all nice, that's all well. What effect has that had on accident rates in your construction industry?
We've seen the accident rates drop drastically over the last several years, for sure. Where we see the biggest thing is orders. We don't see as many orders written against construction companies now. It's dropped drastically. We still have one of our sectors that is still quite high in as far as orders go. And also with accidents and incidents, we're trying to work with that sector to get them better. It's a hard sector, and that sector is the same right across the country. So, it's a home residential sector because there's so many small companies that are involved, right? And trying to get those small companies involved is tough.
So, season will be coming up pretty quickly for construction. Any concerns that you would have from your end of accidents and so on? Things that maybe make you lay awake every now and then to wonder about a certain sector or a certain group or just certain types of accidents?
I'm really concerned with there's a lot of new regulation changes coming forth in the next little while, and I'm really concerned that a lot of contractors aren't ready for it. It doesn't look like a lot of times, but some of them are pretty substantial, right? So it's going to be tough on the contractors to get up to code and meet the regulation requirements that's there. And for those that weren't even meeting it before, now it's even going to be worse because they're going to be starting to check a lot more, right? So that bothers me, but there's not much you can do. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make that horse drink that water. That's the unfortunate part.
So what's next for CSA or NBCSA, Roy?
Well, my big thing, 2023, 2024, our goal is going to be mental health. That's one of our main goals is going to be mental health. Our sister associations in Newfoundland, in Ontario, and BC, and Manitoba is big. Saskatchewan's big in it. We're seeing more and more suicides in the construction industry. It's happening more and more all the time. Our guys are working, they're going out to job sites. They're traveling from home. They're trying to run two homes. It's a lot of pressure, and we're seeing a big influx in suicides. There's a company called Mates out of Australia that my counterparts in Newfoundland have gotten in partnership with, and they actually train people in companies to be mentors to anyone that wants to talk about mental health in their company. And that's what we'd like to try and get started in New Brunswick in the next year and a half or so. And hopefully we'll get there. Suicide is deep to my heart. I've had it in my family, so I know what it's about. And I think it's a good thing that we push that forth.
Well, look, Rory, we're certainly hopefully in a few months when you get more information on that, we'd like to stop back and do a follow-up with it on that. I'd like to thank you, Roy, for joining us today. Certainly appreciate your comments. Always great to talk to you. For our folks that listen to our podcast, we would love your feedback. You can reach us always at podcast@ssnb.ca. Also, if you have ideas for guests for our podcast, we'd like to hear those as well. So in conclusion, thank you again, Roy, very much. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And stay tuned, folks. We'll see you in probably a week, maybe a week and a half's time.
Thanks, Brian.
Take care.